You can say you're, and we're good.
All right, welcome to our monthly meeting for the Fair Access Committee. We have 4 attending tonight: Derek, Nancy, Sarah, and myself. I don't think Ed's coming. He sent me a text. I also asked him about any updates on the playing field, so I have it on here. And Alan did not respond, so I don't think there's anything to on that when we can talk about it all. But first, we need to adopt the minutes for the April meeting, which I circulated as well previously.
I'll move approval.
Derek moved approval. Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. I think we'll spend the bulk of the time on the Poolesville Day breakfast. I sent you a run of show there, at least some ideas initially, but I did want to quickly see if there's anything you guys picked up, because we were at different meetings at the Black Rock Center, anything in terms of follow-up. We, as some of you may know, we actually had a bunch of us go to a Black Rock Center for the Performing Arts meeting that was held by the county executive. He wasn't there, but his chief deputy was, and it was on the budget. So we got a chance to raise both the pool bubble and the community center. And then they broke us out into groups. And the meetings for the groups included things like transportation, parks, recreation. So we had discussions, usually with a county person there at the table. I don't know if you guys picked up anything or not.
I spoke to the OMB, Office of, I don't even remember.
Yeah, management and budget, yeah.
There you go. And I got 2 business cards. I actually don't have them with me. I left them on my nightstand, but I gave them my number, an email, and we talked about how even though it's not in the budget, the pool bubble is not in the budget this year, and the construction for the community center is not slated to start until 2029 or something like that. We talked about opportunities for moving those dates up based on, sometimes another project gets delayed for some reason, it becomes too expensive, or other reasons. And so if that happens, then they look for other projects that are like ready to go and easy to slate in. And so they have us on that list. They said I can follow up and talk to them about it. And I am so sorry I don't have their names, but I'll email them to everybody. And so they seemed very encouraging. They're like, it sounds like you guys have done a lot to try to make this easy for us. They said, however, your estimates for how much a pool bubble is going to cost, when the government does something, it always costs 2 or 3 times more. Which is terrible. She's like, because we have to use certain contractors. We have to use, we have to go through a formal process of bidding. Everything just adds money and time to it.
They give the money to the town of Poolesville?
I know, and we don't just do it.
So it's actually, again, it's because it's a county facility. We don't own it. So instead, what we've worked on is trying to provide a scenario where we are providing money. So through the bond bill initiative that we talked about with the state, is trying to put them in the best position.
Right.
There's money available so that they can add their money to it.
So that's what I told her. I'm like, the
Yeah.
town has money, the state has
Yes.
money.
Mhm.
I'm trying to make this as easy for you as possible.
Yeah.
And of course, they were like, that's wonderful, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
They can't promise anything. But that they are good people to be in touch with, because they are the ones who kind of decide what's feasible,
Mm-hmm.
what can we put together. So I think that they're good contacts to have.
Was she the OMB person that,
It's DGS, Department of General Services.
was that who?
Yes, you are right.
So you
You're
met
right.
with that, but there is an there is a,
You're right. It
there
wasn't
is
OMB,
also
it was
a,
DGS.
yeah,
DGS?
yeah.
Yes.
Was she the one in the audience that they pointed to when they were talking about?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
Yeah.
yeah. So obviously, Rich Mondeleno thinks highly of her, too.
Yes, and they did seem to be very, both of the women that I talked to seem to have a good understanding of how the system works. So anyways, I think they're good contacts. I don't know if it will help. We'll see.
I was in
What about you guys?
transportation, because we split up to different, I was in the transportation one. The guy that was the transportation person there was actually the chief engineer for DOT, so it was good to have him here. He didn't know anything about he knew something about the fact that Poolesville only has a bus that goes to Poolesville, but he didn't know anything about Ride On Reimagine, because we've been participating in that, and what we had talked about in that process. And so he said he was going to go back and see if there's been any progress on some of the issues that we raised, including the idea, we called it a reverse flex zone, but, the idea of having something that goes through the Western County and picks up people in Dickerson and Belleville and brings them back to Poolesville to get on the bus. So he was not aware of that, but he said, I'm one of the top 5 people in the department, so I will certainly raise it with our chief and, see what they think. So that was it was useful. How about you, Derek? Anything in your?
One is I went and clarified that it's county property and not parks property where the pool is, because that would create a whole nother level of approval.
Yeah.
And I did, regarding sort of the ag reserve sort of potential visioning that you've emailed a little bit about and that you've been involved with, got the name of the person in the planning department who's responsible for the Up County. I have not reached out yet, but did do that with Parks and Planning, and then went sort of in follow-up to, I think Ed had been at the recreation, not the separate from the parks, the recreation breakout, and there was a couple people there talking about the pool bubble, and they were offering different kinds of resistance to it. And so it seems like there's more, not like no, but offering reasons.
What? Yeah, I'm curious, like what they say.
Well, like one of the things, it's either going to be a competition temperature pool or a therapy. So you can't, say that you'll have both seniors and swim teams use it.
Really?
Which is, there's some level, it's technically correct, but that's not true, right?
They never have those types of swimmers share the same pool? That's so interesting.
Well, it's just as a competitive level is 78 and maybe up to 80 degrees.
Okay.
And in therapy, you want to be at the minimum 80 degrees, usually 82.
Okay, so if we had it at
Okay, so we can
80?
keep it at 80 and.
So that's why I'm saying it's, but so anyway, and they also we were talking about, I think Lincoln mentioned this, having the community center share a staff person with the pool, and that was sort of like, whoa, that's a lot to think about. Even though you're both, because that's a whole different departments in recreation, the community centers and the pools, and so that's why I'm saying
Interesting.
it's not no's, but there's.
It's going to take a while
gonna-
for people to be like, okay, could we do things differently because this is a rural setting and they have different.
Exactly.
So we need to keep framing it as
Exactly, yes.
we understand that this is not how you normally do things.
Right.
And we are not like the rest of the county.
And I would say it's not just getting Robin on board, but some of these other
Like other
higher up
departments.
that are, yes, like the pools person and
Yeah.
the community centers person too. So Robin's not having to swim completely upstream if she's completely on board. So that's what I got from that.
That's good guidance. I would never try to say that she's completely on board. She has been very supportive. She sent her staff for 2 visits we had, and you were there for one of them. So she has her people out watching and going with us to learn about it, because they don't know much about it. That's part of it. And Shauna, I think her name was pretty skeptical. Even though she saw how easy it was to put, we went to the Great Mills, and it wasn't that hard to put up the pool bubble. It was pretty easy. But she raised some of those same issues about the temperature, about how much more cost it would be because you have to heat the water and the inside of the facility. Right now, you don't have to have any heater up there at all, no heating in the changing rooms or anything. None of that has to be done. So if you put all those costs in there, plus you have to have year-round lifeguards and things like that, So one of the.
Yes, it will cost money to provide
Yes.
services to this part of the county.
Yeah.
You might have to spend some of the money that we're paying in taxes on us.
Right. But I think part of the answer to that, too, is that it also is a facility that, and Robin has said this, too, and when we said, I understand your concerns, but she said, yeah, but there's another argument, which is a positive one for you guys, which we do need more indoor pools. And now the one in
Just
Bethesda is
overall.
closing for a
Yeah.
year, I guess it is, to overhaul it. So he's even more important. Our swim team actually sometimes used to go to that pool. So, there's an argument to be made for the county to do, this is a cheap way to get extra pool space. But you're right, it's an uphill battle, and,
Uphills, I would just say it needs to be consistent. We just need to stay on it and keep communicating about it and keep asking for a meeting with Robin and get someone else, even if we don't get Robin, get someone else to tell them about it.
And I think the people that you were talking about, sort of maybe department heads, they probably have no idea. We've done a really good job with our other representatives talking about the unique distinction between sort of the rural needs versus other standard needs of the county. And so I think that's kind of the next layer of folks to bring along in that, I don't know, argument. And so maybe sharing video, maybe we think about that as we are thinking about the Poolesville Day Breakfast.
right.
We've usually just gone for like county representatives or like Robin, the head of the rec, but maybe we need to like go down a few layers and pull in some people who could actually help solve problems. To make it happen.
What I could do
Yeah.
is actually ask Robin, because she actually wants to be helpful, who else do we need to talk to in the bureaucracy and get on board and see what she says?
That's what I was gonna suggest is offer, if we bring her into organizing that, that's also a way of bringing her on board to supporting it, so like,
Be part
hey
of the
Robin,
team.
as you're thinking about this, would it be helpful to you for us to talk through what we've learned with, the people who report to you?
Like, where are you facing resistance that we can help?
Let us help you and your team think through this.
Yes.
So, the budget process, they will begin to start submitting to the county executive over this summer, sometimes as early as August. So maybe one idea we could have is to actually have all of you guys would be good on the call with Robin, to kind of say, okay, we've given you a lot of information. Are we missing things? Are there people we need to bring on board internally to help you? Those kinds of things. That might be a good conversation with her.
Yeah, and maybe we could even have a couple people come on
Yeah.
the call with her.
We could, yeah.
Because I'm thinking more of the big picture, like something I think that has been a motivating piece of information for some of our representatives is learning more about like the disparity in health outcomes or other resources out here. So I think if we can talk to folks who are like, wait, that's not how we work. We don't share staff between rec and pool. If we can bring them to that point by talking about some of the reasons why it's so important that we do things differently.
And we could do it from two ends too, right? Like, I totally agree. Explain all the things that are different about this area, and then show that we already are aware of some of the ways in which things would have to be done differently in this particular case. So, it's not like, well, we're different, and then they start saying, well, but what about this or what about that? I mean, they'll come up with things we haven't thought of or heard of, I'm sure.
Sure.
But if we can start out by saying like, here's why things are different, and, we totally get that normally you do this with the temperature, and normally you don't have staff that are split or whatever. But let's make the connection here for you. Like, we get that, but this is why this has to work here and can work here.
Yeah.
Because it's different.
And we're used to, as a community, kind of multi-use, multi-purpose sharing things.
Yeah, and you can say like, and we're
Sorry,
saving
Niles,
your
like-
resources for that too.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's also important to note that the people that we're talking about are the professionals within the department. I mean,
Right.
their job isn't to think of things in political sense necessarily, or like, well, they are solving problems, but they're
Within
usually
their-
within their thing and technical. And I think that's the way to think about, these are more the specifics of how is this going to operate.
Right. Yeah.
Not just, like, how does this help us, but how is this going to be feasible? How is it going to, one of the things that we had a conversation of when we were at the recreation department was this conversation about lifeguards and the issues of training lifeguards and the issues of recruiting lifeguards. That's a problem that they're seeing county-wide, and that will also be a problem for us because, again, distance is part of the issue. So it's thinking about those type of things too. It's not just,
Can we go to the swim team and say, hey, we pledge to train,
Right.
provide X number of
and that,
hours?
and that was a conversation we had that day, was how do we involve those type of stakeholders to get those type of people involved in that process too? I mean, because that goes into another thing. If it's going to be an all year round pool, you're going to have times when kids are in school
Right, it can't be.
where they can't be
Yes,
lifeguards.
teenagers,
Yes. So that's another thing to consider. All these things are things to consider so that we can, as you said, find solutions to, but also present it in that way, that we're trying to solve the specific problems.
So maybe you reverse the order. Instead of starting with, there are these disparities and keep that in mind. You start with the problems and then you explain, there are these disparities, so therefore the solutions to the problems aren't the standard solutions.
Right. It's all just a framing. I mean, it's not about the ideas, but it's just thinking about it differently.
Yeah. But there are two points that you guys have all made that actually do resonate with bureaucrats, and one is she does care about having more swim space.
Yeah.
So this actually does help her, and she said that to
Yeah.
us. But the other thing is that bureaucrats, frankly, like to have an agency that has, if they can, more responsibility. That's just part of the nature of the beast. So to some extent, we're also helping in that regard, that, this is another
It
operating,
expands their operation.
this is an area that you wanted to get into more, and she said that. We want to do more out here. That's why we like the community center. So those do resonate, but I think the bigger issues are the ones you're talking about, which is what are the practical
What are the
hurdles for them to get
practical
over and say,
implications of doing
We
it?
solved it, Mr. County Executive. We think we know how to get this done, and it's going to cost this much,
Yep.
but it will do these following things.
Yeah.
We need to help her get through some of them. And that requires a conversation,
Do
really.
they ever have full-time lifeguard staff, or are they always
So-
just hourly?
So there, as far as I understand it, it's always hourly,
Part-time.
part-time staffing. But you can work that around in a different way when you have, like, say, the Germantown swim center, right, which is all indoor. It's an indoor facility. There they have actual hired full-time staff that run it as well. And so they are, I would imagine, I don't know, but also lifeguard certified and things like that, because they have the amount of people to support it and things like that, and people who pay for access to the pool, which is the other thing, is the pools are a paid service, unlike the
Revenue generator.
right, unlike the rec center. So.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know the data behind all this, but I presumably partly could maybe be an argument that it's actually a workforce development effort.
Exactly.
Not just not that you can't staff, but that you have all sorts of people out here who need jobs.
Yeah, and that's the thing that what they expressed to us in that conversation was the challenges in they already have a staffing problem in trying to get lifeguards.
Right.
It's a staffing problem all of Montgomery
Right.
County.
Right.
For people who are working for a certain wage.
Right.
It's so expensive to live here.
Yes,
Like-
well, right, and that's the other thing as well. But what they specifically talked about was, if they pay $20 an hour, $15 an hour, somebody could also do that working at McDonald's or doing something like that. That doesn't require the amount of training that's involved, because it's a different level of commitment
Yeah.
than doing other things. And so that's the other issue that they've run into. So these are all not to say that these are all problems that can't be solved. The bigger question is what are the solutions to those problems? And that's how it's sort of framing it, because that's what the discussion we really had with them was. Here, each time we would talk about something, here's the other things to think about. And so once you have an approach, maybe there's a way of seeing how that works.
I have two kids of mine who are lifeguard certified.
Yeah.
Who worked at that pool. And both of them only did it for a short period of time because they were just like, it's so boring.
Yeah, and that's the other part. Yeah.
I'm like, how do you make lifeguarding more interesting? I don't know.
There really isn't, because if you make it more interesting,
Well,
they're not doing their
exactly.
job.
The only time it is exciting,
Yeah.
unfortunately, is when you got an
More
emergency.
frequent rotations.
Well, I wonder-
Yeah, I don't know.
I wonder if it's worth, like, us starting to make a list of these challenges that we know and really kind of partnering with Robin. 'Cause again, this is a way to really bring her into this too and get her more fully invested, and say, like, we started this list, can you help us finish this list of the thing, what are the questions that What are the
more
practical
technical
challenges
challenges.
that are gonna need to be addressed for this to be successful? And then, let us start to think about ways that, maybe you can help us understand how it's normally done and why this would be more challenging here. And let us start to think about how it might work
Yeah.
up here.
Potential solutions.
And the other thing that came up with that is, again, the distance question, right? So you have people who aren't necessarily going to want to commute here to be lifeguards.
Right.
So that was an additional challenge. So that's where it comes back to talk to the swim team and things like that. That was another point to it.
So there was, we did talk a little bit about that specifically, and there's a lot of, not very many jobs for teenagers or for anyone
Out
in
here.
Poolesville.
Yeah.
So that might be a different issue here, especially if there's support from town promotion.
I mean, Crossvines, I know, has been having a hard time getting staff. They've
Well,
been using temp agencies.
Oh, well, so it's more that I've heard that, well, because my daughter put something in and heard nothing back. So, and I talked with someone else today who put something in and heard nothing back. So I
It
think
also
there's
might just be
other
management
issues.
issues.
Yeah.
I think there's other issues than there not being people here that want to work
Okay.
there, especially teenagers.
Right.
Yeah, yep.
So, and then the other thing is there's the distance issue, right? But how many of our kids actually, and there are some, go to Olney because that's where they have to practice.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
There, so that's not an issue on the other end for the revenue making. The swim teams will say, hey, you signed up, you need to come here. So, anyway.
Yeah, I think the list is a good idea too, especially if we're going to have a conversation with Robin, to have something that kind of frames the discussion ahead of time so she knows we're interested in trying to help her solve some of the hurdles that she may
Yeah.
still see out there. We've done two of them already, which is we got them actually to see that it's actually feasible. Initially, we met with her, her first reaction was, we never done that in the county before, and they were pretty resistant because they hadn't seen it done.
Yeah.
But once we saw it twice and it wasn't that hard, then the objection was, well, yeah, but then you've got energy costs, and so they started going through. So we crossed the first hurdle. It's more feasible than they thought. We've crossed the second hurdle, which is the cost of this is a lot cheaper than bricks and mortar.
Right.
Yeah.
So now we got the more practical things. Okay, if you guys are willing to commit to that, what is it that we got to solve to help you recommend it to the county executive? So if you, I'm happy to start a list and send it around to you guys, and we can all start adding to it. And then once we get a list that we think is pretty good, we can set up a meeting with Robin, a call, or at least a Zoom call if we don't want to go down there. She's actually down in Wheaton, is where their office is, but we could do a Zoom call and start off with that and see where it goes.
Yeah, I think it's a good place to start.
Okay.
Have we had, do you know anybody from, I'm sure the county has a department that focuses on working with people with disabilities.
There is an office for that.
Yeah. But I don't know of any in
yeah.
that office, so.
Yeah.
But that would be another good hook, no question about it. And actually, Linda Brokowski
In terms of
mentioned
like
that, too.
rallying community support or even other resources, other grants that might be available, other staffing solutions, if we can provide.
Yeah. Sorry, I got an email from Jay, so I apologize.
No, that's fine. So, I don't know, if anybody knows anybody.
Yeah.
Again,
Well,
would you know how to?
yeah, we could certainly get in touch. I mean, it's not hard to find somebody. I guess the question is, what are we actually asking here? You know,
I guess I'd want to know who coordinates, would it be through the pool department or would it be through the?
who to reach. So I think the first thing, for a conversation like that is to start with like Shauna, who we talked to,
Yeah.
who's the head of the aquatics facilities.
She actually manages a lot of it.
She manages a lot of it. And so that's the
We
conversation.
just learn more about what facility resources are available
We could do that, too.
and what are the needs and can we
Yeah.
potentially fill that need.
Right.
Okay,
All right.
that's cool.
All right, good. Well, that's a good discussion. There's some good ideas here, so. Anything else on that? Budget and that kind of thing? Just a couple more things in the budget. I've gotten two or three notes from council members. It's a very, very tense process, so I thought I'd have Laura
We know.
tell us, we're pretty close on the video. You guys had some good feedback, Nancy did and Derek. We've taken it in. It's not, I don't think it's quite ready to share yet. I had a couple more thoughts with Laura, but we got time because honestly, they're not going to look at anything right now. They're right in the middle of a tense budget session. It's going to go on for at least 2 more weeks. And because it's also a political year, you're already seeing it. I mean, that's part of what's going on is that people that are running for county executive are starting to raise the flag on some issues. So I think we got some time. If we don't send something out till end of May, early June, that's probably going to be fine. So anyway, Laura, I think you had a second draft. I've seen the initial, and I had a couple thoughts on that, but before I circulate it again, is there anything else you need to talk about on the video, where we are with that?
No, just appreciate the feedback, implemented some edits, focused more on some of the primary reasons why fair access was formed, distance, number of residents, all the traditional reasons. So we brought some of those out to the fore more in the video. I think hopefully it just flows a little bit better. I know that was some of your feedback, Nancy. So kind of changed the front a little bit, added a little bit more context. Look forward to additional feedback. I think we're in good shape, but it's ultimately your call.
Yeah. No, I think it's in pretty good shape, but anyway, well, as soon as we get a little further on that, I'll get back to you guys on that, but could use any more feedback after we see it, because we'd like to get it out there, but it's not critical, it's not time sensitive, really. Okay. I did get a note today, or a text today from Ruben Rosario. It looks like there's 5 positions, but I think for the UCAB that are going to be open, but 3 of them, the people are reapplying.
Okay.
So in the end, it may only be 2, which is still fine. I mean, it'll still be 1 for us. He said it's still looking like it'll be another couple of weeks and they'll know, and they'll announce it, or early June. And once that happens, he'll let us know right away, and then we can go from there. So probably 2 positions that we're looking at.
Where are we in terms of identifying potential candidates to at least inform?
Yeah, I have
And
I have no idea.
Maybe instead of identifying candidates, it's really more about notifying some of our partners out here,
But we also, one idea that Ed had, I thought was a good one, was you guys had a lot of people that signed up or applied to be on the Parks Board, wasn't it?
Yeah, we have the Parks Board. We ended up having 5 people apply for the Planning Commission. We've had good response in the recent openings.
Yeah.
And so I talked to Wade about it, and we can send those around.
Yeah.
See how you want to proceed there.
Yeah.
That won't be difficult. So I can do that, in the next day or 2. And so you guys can look at that and see how you want to address
It might be a good place to start. I mean, there may be other names you guys can think of, but.
Maybe we should, just start an email chain where we pull up the names of
Yep.
those people to start with.
Yeah.
You met the people, assuming, right, the commissioners?
Not the
people for
parks
all the-
ones, but I
okay.
met the planning
Yeah.
applicants.
Okay, and you made.
And the Parks Board ones, we didn't physically meet with all of them because it's not required, but they went through a whole review by the Parks Board and such like that.
you have materials
We have
about it.
materials there, yeah.
Yeah, we do have, like,
We have resumes and stuff like that.
Oh, that's helpful.
So
Yeah.
maybe, people who've applied for this
Yeah.
group, maybe over the last
Oh,
2
yeah, yeah.
years or something, like anybody who's applied
Yeah.
to any of these groups, we can take a look at that, and then using networks, we can think about other people and and heads of organizations to reach out to, really do a serious. It's not gonna. The putting it out on Facebook and just saying anybody want to do this is
that's
not gonna work.
helpful. It's gonna have
So
to
for
be
this one, I think we really have to
email, but also really
tap
frankly
people.
text, because at least for me, I'll get 10,000 emails and I probably open up 20% of them. I don't open up all my emails. Sorry, maybe I shouldn't admit that.
See, I'm the opposite. I know how to manage email, but with text, it's I open it, and then if I don't respond right away, I like that. I don't know how you keep track of that. But I'm more geriatric than you are. But no, but I think if we start I think we should narrow it
Yeah.
down to a couple, a small group to really tap and encourage.
Do you want to come up with a description of what the responsibilities,
So-
what the committee is, and
Why don't we
what the
pull it from, because
responsibilities are?
didn't we have something in one of the documents you wrote?
Yeah. I think
Add
it's
like a
posted
description
online.
of, yeah.
Yeah.
And so we can pull that. That's the easiest thing to do. Right,
And then the application process, you know what I mean?
right. And that's, I think, the part that you've had more conversations with. Did they give you any sense of what that was? Okay.
No, I mean, they basically said, you know.
To apply.
We kind of do it a little differently all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, boy.
'Cause-
So
Yeah.
I think it'll be whatever it says, you know, when
Okay.
they post it.
That sounds good.
But,
Maybe we start with, hey, would you mind if we add you to a list of people to communicate with about potential opportunities for volunteering?
well, I think we probably have to be a little bit more, like, I wonder if, I mean, is it hard for you to put together that list of names for us to start with?
No.
Yeah.
I would suggest maybe we all
way to
talk
start.
for, you know, a couple days back and forth and brainstorm on, start with those names, brainstorm on other names, think about some people we could call heads of different organizations, maybe divide up those calls to people to get names,
Okay.
and then like try to figure out a few people who we think would be really good and possibly interested, and like call them.
Okay, that's good. I feel like I have the names in my mind of people who I would call to get names from.
Okay. And then I think
And that's
Like
not-
people who are super over involved in a lot of
Right.
things.
Well, and then
don't need
we,
one more thing, but might know a lot of people.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and then we also have to be really careful, right? Because first of all, it's not our job to select people and
No.
and
Exactly.
to make decisions.
And they
so
don't
really-
represent us
Right.
specifically.
Yeah.
Right. So we can just say, you know, I think we have to be clear. We're talking to, you know,
We're-
some, I don't want to say
Encouraging.
lots because I think we want to really like, but you know, we're talking to several people who we think would be, you know, could be really interested in this and whatever. We'll
I
have to
think
about
stating the
language, but
overarching goal, we want to make sure that our
that
region is
is
represented.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we really hope you will consider this. Obviously, it's not, you know, it's a
And-
county decision. It's not.
And maybe could we start with, here is the percentage of these boards that are from our county? I think it's good for people to understand
Yeah.
how underrepresented we
Yeah.
are first.
Yeah.
So they have some context, like, oh,
Right. But this one in particular
Yeah.
is. A
Yeah.
little bit
yeah,
different.
yeah, this one is different.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, that's good. Thanks. Appreciate that. And the only other quick thing I would mention is that I did present to the UCAB few weeks ago at their request, just going over some of the issues we've been involved in and the remaining kinds of issues we got on the table, and also talked a little bit about inequities, the four inequities we talk about all the time. And they want to write a letter of support, not just for us, they're going to do an up-county letter. So it's going to include things that are part of Germantown because they're part of the up-county. So it's going to be broader than just us, but it will include a bunch of issues, including ours. So they said they didn't need help writing it, and that's
What's her name
fine.
again, the person from UCAB?
It's
You introduced me to?
Crystal Bivens is her name. Yeah. She's very active, and they've gotten, with Lynn and Crystal, they've been much more active as a group than they were even 6 months ago, so I think they could be helpful. And Ruben is very active with them too, and of course, he's our key person to the county executive in terms of a regional person, so, you know, it all kind of fits together. Having a UCAB that's active and having somebody there from our area could be really helpful, so. Anyway, more to come on that as we hear back from Ruben. So on the Poolesville Day breakfast, I just threw together a quick some initial thoughts about it. One thing in terms of context I just wanted to mention is that I went up to Annapolis a few weeks ago for a bill signing on that economic study bill. And we got to shake the governor's hand. I didn't get to, he doesn't know who I am from Adam. But I did get 15 seconds with him, and he's very personal, obviously. And all I said was, I'm from Poolesville, in the Poolesville area. We have a Poolesville Day breakfast, and we have a Poolesville Day event that's really amazing with a lot of people attending. Would be great to have you come. And of course, he said, well, I'd like to get that on my schedule. That's not going to happen that way. But Walter Donahue, his staff person, was there, and he sent me a link. So I did send him background on this, and he knows us because he's close to Aruna Miller, too. So he said, I will push for this. He said, I don't know what'll happen. The governor's got a million places to go.
Of course.
But, this year it could be a good year because it's obviously right before the next election. So he might want to go to a parade and might want to go to the breakfast. So we'll see.
Have a photo op at a small, cute
Yeah.
town.
So if we can get him to the breakfast, it would obviously add a lot to it. We've done a good job of getting other executives and leaders before, and so we'll take a shot at it. But beyond that, we're just going to probably have the normal folks, although, again, I am almost certain Will be coming, Evan will be coming, and Andrew will be coming, and of course Marilyn. So those four are, well, three are running, will be running against each other for county executive. So it'll be a pretty interesting breakfast. I know there are two at-large candidates. Scott Goldberg, you probably have met Scott before, but Scott's run before. He lost last time. He's running again. Lori Ann's running again. So I'm almost certain all of them will be coming. So we'll have a pretty good turnout. Kate Stewart has been out more than once, and she really likes the area too. So I think the county council will have a good representation. The D15 delegation will be coming, of course. But I've also had really good conversations with Van Hollen's staff, and I'm trying to see if I can get him to come. But it would be good to have at least one federal person there, because we never have had anybody from the federal level. So I'm going to work on that too. I'd love to get Elsa Brooks. I think she would be good, but haven't had much luck with them yet, but, so, anyway, that's, in terms of attendees, that's what it looks like right now. And I just kind of laid out some ideas. One of the things I was thinking this year, instead of doing a video like you always do, and maybe we just reuse the video we're doing now and maybe tweak it a little bit, maybe we don't do that. Instead, we focus more on the inequities issues and have a panel on that as a way to kick things off. I don't know.
I feel like video is something that people can watch when we send them.
Yeah.
And we need to take advantage of having people live and
I
interacting.
agree. I was thinking maybe the video could be included in the invitation.
Okay.
And maybe playing on screens in the background with muted, but with like words underneath, maybe, so if people were walking around and they wanted to just like look at it for a minute.
Yeah, but I agree though, use the time, we'll have all these people in the room who
Yeah.
have so much knowledge and personal stories and all of
Yeah.
that I think would be really compelling.
Yep.
Well, I laid out an initial, it was just a swag at it. I know Charlotte Boucher has really a lot of information on mental health. She was, as you probably know, a former principal for many, many years. She now heads up UPN, so they are constantly involved in those issues with teens especially. She and I went to this, and Katie was there too, and I think Melissa might have been, but that Kate Stewart set up not too long ago, a few months ago, on mental health. It was an all-day or half-day session. It was really well done, actually, but it was a series of presentations about the mental health of various aspects of our county, mostly teens, but also older Americans too. And they have I'll send you this, it just came in a couple days ago, but they have a summary of what the meeting covered. But one of the things that Charlotte said immediately after the meeting was, you heard a lot about so many programs are available for a lot of different things, including helping families that are struggling with kids who have mental health issues, and different ethnic groups, but none of them are out here. None of them are out here. And part of that's because we don't have a place to do it, but also it's just because they don't do it out here.
I feel like that is a lame excuse, because we have churches that have space open during the day. We have our town hall, which is available when it's available, and there's plenty of times when it is. There are spaces.
Yep.
Anyway, I thought Charlotte
But not
might
county spaces.
be good to talk about mental health in the in the Western County. I didn't know, I thought Katie could talk about the transportation needs because they do so much with WUMCO. And of course, she knows very well what the situation is with the buses and all that.
I'm wondering if you should actually just focus on mental health. Katie spoke pretty passionately last time I talked to her about mental health needs and how they're addressing that through WUMCO.
Yeah.
Like, what if you had, and Ed Reed could talk specifically about the high schoolers and teens. I just wonder if maybe you have them focus on a specific topic instead of trying to cover lots of different topics.
I like that, and the
It
moderator.
like dilutes the message sometimes.
I like that a lot, and the moderator could introduce, this concept of, sort of inequity and the fair access issues, and say, this extends to transportation and this and that, and you give like even
Give
a
some
sense or
context,
two
yeah.
about each of those, just to kind of demonstrate that the landscape is broad, and then say, we're going to give one illustrative example and really show you what this looks like in just one area, and go into mental
Yeah.
health. So if you could frame it that this is an illustrative example and there are all these other areas, and give them at least just the flavor of the other areas,
Yeah.
then they really focus and settle in. And like, if you hear from Katie and from Ed and from, then and Charlotte, they get immersed in the.
And
It's really good.
looking at mental health looking at it from different social class perspectives and different ages.
Cultural.
Last time I spoke to Katie, I think she was talking about how like 30% of our emergency room visits from our area are for mental
Right,
health.
that's the report that, she and I were looking at it the other day. Yeah, it came out from, the county has an annual report on the state of health in the county, and it's one of the charts in there.
And then I know Charlotte Boucher with UPN, their explicit mission statement is like to prevent suicide, like harm. And so with the Poolesville Pride Club, we've been working a lot with both the Queer Student Union and Project Uplift, which share the same advisor and often share the same events
Is that from the school?
in the high school. And I know that working with students who are at highest risk for potential mental health challenges also, those are two groups of students that we work with already. Project Uplift is like anybody who wants to make friends. You don't have to eat lunch alone, kind of.
Is that a nonprofit group of some type, or is it a
It's a
county?
club. Project Uplift is a club
It's
at
a
the high
club.
school, but they're sponsored by UPN.
Oh, UPN,
Yeah, Charlotte.
okay.
And that's Poolesville Pride's sponsor as well, UPN is.
So
Everything we do is under that.
just to reprise a little bit how that morning usually works, we have essentially 7:45, 8 o'clock we start. Obviously, we have a quick greeting, but normally, because we've got so many politicians there, you've got to have some of them. If the governor's coming, obviously, he's going to say something. If the county executive comes, he will usually say so. So we're going to have, I'm saying 10 or 20 minutes probably is going to be mostly the politicians. So that already takes you from 8 o'clock till 8:30. We usually leave at 9:50, so we got 45 minutes after that. So, and we also got I haven't thought about this much at all, but we've had a champion of the Western County Award too. So we're not going to have a lot of time for a panel, but I think we'd have 20 minutes probably. So that means each person on the panel might have 2 or 3 minutes.
What about reversing the order and starting with the panel?
I thought about that too. Maybe that's the first thing, although you still with the.
It's hard, because sometimes don't you feel like the politicians are like running late because it's so
with the
early?
leaders,
But
yeah.
others of them are like, I need to get this early one out of the way because I've got to go over to something in
Yeah.
Olney, and like,
I think you could do the leaders quickly or as quickly as you could and then do the panel maybe. So it might be the second thing on the
Yeah,
list.
I feel like starting with maybe split them up too. Like starting with the panel orients everybody to why they're there. I mean, I know the politicians think they're there to just. show faces,
Well, I
right?
know, yeah.
but maybe they would speak to these things.
Well,
if we
that's what I was
start with
thinking. If
the
they
panel.
hear this, then their comments presumably are going to relate to this, right? Otherwise, what are they talking about? They're just, hey, we're happy to be in this little town for a nice parade, right? So if it orients everybody to the purpose of the meeting, they
As long as we
have
say
to think
we'll
about it.
recognize you later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. We could look at that.
yeah, think about that. And then I think doing the Champion of Western County Award after.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also, both Mike Scheffel at the Ag Department and Bob Sissel have been wanting to do something, and the breakfast would be a good opportunity if we get, especially the kind of leadership we get, to recognize farmers in some way at the breakfast.
Yeah.
I haven't really thought that through, but
Something that is sort of, at least emotionally, we're committed to the Ag Reserve being based on this.
but the thing that's a little tricky is that, so you got Bob, which is the large farmers essentially, but you've also got people
Jennifer
that,
Freeman.
the orchards are not quite the same farm
Yeah.
system as them. And you've got folks like the 1 Acre Farm who are tabletop farmers, so
Yeah,
it's a range of different people. I don't want to just kind of say
But
farmers and
I
think
think
it's,
farming, it includes all of them.
yeah, it has to, that's what I'm saying.
Farming includes
Oh,
all of
but if
them.
you're just giving a certificate to Mike Scheffel and Bob Sissel,
Yeah. No, that would
then
be,
that doesn't really represent, is what you're saying, doesn't
That's
represent
why we
the
need to
farming.
make sure we are inviting a variety.
Because that would be a good picture for the politicians too, and remind them.
yeah.
Let's have, I mean, Jennifer Freeman has come in years past.
She would,
I don't think I've ever seen Mike
She could recruit, Jenny could recruit a couple of
Yeah,
those
she
folks.
could.
Linda Lewis would love to be up there.
She would.
Yeah.
And I think Deer Valley, Samantha, they.
So they're part of the Bob Sissel.
Yeah, they are.
Oh, okay.
Although she's got a slightly different farm than a lot of them because she
Yeah,
does have
she
a farm
does.
market,
She's
but,
got-
So you-
Anyways,
a
I
whole
think
bunch
the
of people stand up there.
yeah. So it's,
Afro Thrive is good if we're also looking to have a full picture of representation as
Yes.
well.
so it's a good idea. It's just a question of, how do you, and look,
And what are the words we're trying to say in this?
a lot of them aren't going to
proclamation?
come either because it's and a lot of them are working even that day, so it's not going to be that easy to get a lot of them there, but.
Yeah.
We've had almost every one of our breakfasts we've had. Ed usually comes. He's got Ed. What's his last name? It starts with a Spates. And you got Davy Scott. He never comes, but Jameson's usually comes. One of them. So you got 3 or 4 tables.
Larger.
Billy Willard has come on occasion. So we've got several.
Those are our large commodity
right.
crops.
Not the small guys.
Yeah,
And Jennifer has been. Jenny Freeman has come.
yeah.
The Wanker Farm guy, I've been to several breakfasts, and he's always there, so he probably would come.
Has he been?
Linda's come, she's
Yeah, Linda would
come before. We need to work on that, but that part of it. And I know in the Poolesville Day Committee that I'm on, they've been doing a lot of work trying to figure out, the EV show may not be anywhere near what it's been in the past. It may have some space up there. They're thinking about trying to make that much more, especially
ag
since you
end.
can't use this space here now, more like the ag end of town, so to speak.
Now, when you say where are you talking about?
They're talking the
Like
parking
this
lot where
parking
Anytime
lot?
Fitness is, and across the street where the Jameson plot is, that's Jameson's land.
Oh, so like
Right.
down
That end of
that,
town.
at the parking grass area behind Jameson?
Right, right. That's,
Okay.
it's just, again, thinking it out loud, but they gotta find someplace to put the ag stuff now because it can't be out here.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I mean, that'd be a good use of that field.
well, and it's also accessible for, if they wanted to bring farm equipment, because they're talking about bringing some equipment and
Like
parking
big
it where, that's a great place because it's outside of you don't have to go up the road here, you just come in from outside of town, park it over there, and people could see it, which would be neat too, so. Anyway, it's still in the thinking stage, but it would tie right in with what we're trying to do, so.
I'm curious, I know that they've been also toying with the idea of, do they have some events down at Riverworks? Like,
Oh.
have performances on that stage down
Oh,
there
okay.
too? So that
Yeah.
you have people moving all through the whole town.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
I mean,
with
if that's-
Poolesville Day,
If that's gonna be our arts and cultural district at
Yeah.
some point, it would make sense for that to be a hub,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, honestly, this is kind of an evolution we've been trying to do with Poolesville Day forever. We never got people at both ends. We always had them in the middle. But this actually might start getting more people up there. So, it's not a bad
Which would
start.
benefit our restaurants also that are down there.
Yeah. So, more to come on that because it's still in the thinking stage, but so it would tie in with this idea too. But again, you look at this and you say, okay, so if we have a panel, if we have some politicians speaking after that, you can always limit it. I mean, not all of the candidates, I'm not going to have all the county executive candidates speak, but you would have the county executive normally.
But who are you going to let speak?
Well, you
either or
can
or
normally do it and they kind of understand that if the governor's there, he would be expected to say something, if the county
Sort of
executive's
the
there.
order
Yeah,
of,
there's sort of yeah.
Order of precedence.
yeah.
Sometimes, if the president of the council was there, you'd normally have Kate say something.
And usually our
Maryland,
own
right,
local
Maryland.
representative,
Right.
Maryland.
Right, she would usually say this. So you got 4 or 5 people, and it's very brief, but you'll have some speaking. So, but then, again, so that's the second piece. So you got the panel, and you got the speaking. You've got, if there's something on the
But I'm sure
farmers.
they'll be in the parade.
Yeah, they will be. And then you got the champion of the West. So we pretty much,
Still
Still
all
introduce.
of the county council people stand up and you could even just have them say their names, quickly or something like that. Just so that-
yeah. So we pretty much, when you think about it, have used all our time up pretty quickly.
Who's the champion you're thinking of?
I haven't thought of any, so if you guys have thoughts on
I
it.
mean, at worst case scenario, I mean, the farmer recognition could take the place of that if there's not the right person
Yeah.
or we're pressed for time. I think it's always good to honor someone else briefly. As
Yeah.
long as it's brief, that never hurts.
Yeah,
But maybe there's a way to bring the two together.
yeah, or I think what Derek is saying is maybe we can't think of somebody who's readily obvious as it was the last few times.
Maybe we say
there
our
isn't.
farmers are the
Right,
champions.
but that's what I
of
was thinking when I
our-
said
Maybe.
bring them together if there's some way.
But you
about-
wouldn't be able to pick just one, because there's so many.
And it could be that the commission might want to do acknowledgement resolution, which is what the council always
I think
does.
that's a great.
And we could
And
do
then you
that
could
at the
copies
breakfast.
and give a copy to all the different various people.
Yes, I
Right.
agree. I think that's what.
Yeah, that might tie things together too. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe we don't do a champion this year.
No, if there's a good champion, it's worth doing.
Yeah,
If you're
right
struggling
now.
just to have it,
Yeah. You don't want to have it, as you're saying, if it's not, there's not somebody who immediately stands out,
Especially in a
we don't do it. So,
here.
okay. This has been some good ideas. I just got to start thinking about how to put it together. And believe it or not, it takes all summer to get all
Oh,
that.
I believe it.
It does. It takes a while.
I believe, yeah.
Is there anything else I've forgotten?
motion to adjourn?
Yes, we
All
will
those in favor?
adjourn for now. There's always more.
Yeah, thanks for the help. There's some really good guidance here, I tell you that. So.
Yeah.
A lot of work, unfortunately, but I think in the pool hall, you guys have come up with some great ideas. I got to figure out how to move that forward, so. All right.
All right, we will.
See, your house is,
The other.
Yeah.
is it, it looks like the roof got done.